All right. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Hour of Power, episode 365. First, wanted to say happy Labor Day weekend. Sometimes, there's the powers of the universe are a little stronger than what I expect them to be. And yeah, there's just some things that happen, and I just have no control over them. And so tonight's show is one of those shows where there was absolutely no control over this show because the universe wanted it to happen. The reason I say that is, well, because something really strange happened. But I'm not going to talk about it until we have our guest on. And so for her third time back, ApotheCarol is going to join us. And, well, she has a lot to say. So I don't want to waste any time. But, yeah, this show is completely out of my control. But I do have utmost confidence that the fact that this show was meant to happen. And I'm about to, So, interesting enough. You know what? Let's not waste any time here. Carol, say hello to everybody.
Hey everybody, ApotheCarol here. Thank you for having me back on the show again, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I always look forward to having you on. I always, love everything that you have to say. But I was kind of telling everybody that I don't think there was any stopping this show. And oddly enough, I'm going to explain to you in a second why. Do you remember the last show that we did?
Yeah.
Do you remember when it was?
Well, I know it had to have been something health related, like I don't talk about anything else. So,
No. Do you remember the date that we did it?
No. No, what date was it?
It was May 27th.
Okay.
It was Memorial Day weekend.
What, you just pick me up on holidays? Is that what the deal is?
So I had no control over this. I wasn't thinking of the weekend, right? I had a little bit of a last minute cancellation, so I had to, figure out something. And so here we are, chatting away on the phone, talking about everything that we have got going on with the logo and the site. And I wasn't saying it for any other reason, but you were like, "Don't you have a show tonight?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a guest right now." And you're like, "Let's do it." And so I didn't think about the date. I didn't think about the weekend. I didn't think there was no plan here. And so as I was putting everything together, I'm like, she's coming back. Like, she opened the summer on Memorial Day, and she's closing the summer on Labor Day. And so, I couldn't think of a better guest to have, especially in terms of, what the weekend stands for, right? As far as America and representing America. And so sometimes I just look at these little tiny things, and there was no plan here. And then I'm sitting here and I'm like, holy cow, this is crazy. Like, she's like, so at that point I was like, this show is meant to be. So I'm going to get out of the way because I know you have a lot to talk about when it comes to metabolic health, as far as, the chronic health crisis in the U.S. And I know you have a lot to say with this. And yeah, I don't even want to get in your way, right? Like, I just want you to get started. But there's a lot of things taking place, I think, in our, the first show that we had, you were introduced. The second show, we talked about things that you could do for a safe summer. Now, we never had a show and we never focused on food. And so here we are in this crisis in America, America in decay. And I thought it was an appropriate name for the show, but maybe you could explain a little bit why,
Yeah. I mean, it is a problem, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of it, but the awareness is increasing. I will say that. I literally heard a segment on this in my local news channel last week. They never talk about this on the news. You just never hear about this. And a lot of, just in social media, a lot more doctors are talking about this. And I'm looking at these doctors going, you never talked about this before. Why are you talking about this now? And I do know it's a problem. It's been a problem, and it's a growing problem. And I just feel like people need to know more about what's going on and what we can do about it collectively, here in the United States especially. It is a worldwide problem, but nobody's got this metabolic health crisis like we do here in the U.S. right now. So it's a very timely topic, and so I'm really happy to have an opportunity to kind of bring it to your audience. My audience has been hearing about it. They're like, "Oh, are we going to talk about that again?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're going to talk about that again." but here's something that might be new for some folks in your audience.
So, there's a real situation. Like, it's interesting that you say. I mean, we were talking before, and it's interesting how you pointed out how there's certain things going on in America that aren't taking place in other countries, right? And yeah, so the way you described it, and now you're starting to see lots of clips, and sometimes you see people like, what's going on here? And I think we have a real serious issue when it comes to our food, chemicals, toxins, and not enough awareness about this. And so they are taking an effect on all of our health, especially at the rate that things are changing. So maybe you could just fill us in what's taking place and what the numbers are, and just everything that's going on.
Okay. So I want to kind of stay a little bit narrowly focused on metabolic health, because everything you just described contributes to the metabolic health or metabolic disease of an individual. Right now in the United States, we rank number 69 in health, overall health of our citizen. We are 69th in health of our citizens. Like, you don't even get a medal in the Olympics at place number 69. Sorry, you're not even a blip on the radar. But we spend more than any other country in the world. We spend $12,555 per capita on healthcare. Number 2 is Switzerland, and they come in at $8,023 per capita. So that's basically 2/3 of what we spend, or 3/4 maybe. So what are we spending that money on? So I went back to 2019 because COVID changed a lot of things in reporting and in tracking numbers that the CDC does. But I went back to the CDC for the year 2019, pre-COVID. Cancer, which is a metabolic disease, all right, was the number 1 killer of Americans in the United States. Number 2 was heart disease, also a metabolic disease. Now, they said back in the 70s and 80s that cholesterol was causing this problem with all the heart disease in the United States. So everybody went low fat. Everybody did what they said. The American Heart Association, came in and they did their bit. And we had food pyramids, we had all this stuff. And everybody went on these low-fat diets. And what happened was the heart disease rates rose and rose and rose even faster after we'd started doing all of those things that they told us to do would fix the problem. The 3rd leading cause of death in the United States, medical error. Medical error. Your doctor or somebody in the medical profession made a mistake and you died. That's the 3rd leading cause of death in this country. The 4th leading cause of death are side effects from medications. So when you add number 3 and number 4 together, when you take those numbers and add them up, if you wanted to, that would actually be the 1st leading cause of death in this country. But they broke it down into 2 separate categories. That placed them at number 3 and 4. Number 5, accidents. Well, accidents are going to happen, and we take every precaution. We're using seat belts and helmets and all of these things. Accidents is the 5th leading cause of death in the country. In pediatric deaths, I think it's still at number 1 for children, but for overall, it's number 5. Number 6, Alzheimer's disease. This is another metabolic disease. Right now, they're calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. It's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. Number 7, diabetes, another metabolic disease. 80% of all diabetics, they don't die of diabetes. They die from heart disease. Now we go back to number 2, the 2nd leading cause of death. So all of these things are in many ways, some of these things are very intricately connected with 4 out of the top 7 leading cause of death being a type of metabolic disease. Now, just to kind of underscore and give you a little bit about what this is costing us as a nation. In 2013, I couldn't find more recent numbers, sorry, but in 2013, so these are old numbers on a old economic scale. Our economy has changed since 2013, so keep that in mind. We spent $23 billion on diabetes medications alone, just diabetes. 23 billion. That is more than the combined revenue of the National Football League, Major League Baseball, and the NBA combined. So that's a lot of money. Okay, because those organizations make a lot of money, but we spend more than that every year just on diabetes medications. Now, about 38% of Americans have 10% have diabetes. 38% have what they call pre-diabetes. I kind of toy with that. I'm not sure I believe in pre-diabetes. It's like saying I'm pre-pregnant. Look, either you're pregnant or you're not. You have diabetes or don't you? Okay, but they call it pre-diabetes, and they say 38% of adults in the United States have that. That means that for the first time in history, almost half of our population has the same metabolic disease. The diabetes and pre-diabetes combined, that's almost 50% of adults in this country. So what they told us, is, let's put that aside for now. So really, these are metabolic diseases, metabolism, your metabolism, and people have said, well, I just have a slow metabolism, or I have a really fast metabolism. So everybody's familiar with that word metabolism. We're going to talk about that some more. That's the foundation of everything in any organism, even plants, animals, humans, okay? And it goes right down to your DNA. It controls your growth. It controls your ability to survive. And it is the root cause of all major chronic diseases. And I've already laid out for you that these chronic diseases in this country, that this is really bad. And all of them have gone up and up and up, even though we have thrown money at every colored ribbon that you can imagine, the red ribbons and the pink ribbons and the purple ribbons, and yet still these diseases are going up and up and up. That's the problem.
So, Carol, let me ask you a question, right? So is it the fact that are we doing things that is causing problems to our metabolism, so what's creating, right? If we're going to the root of the problem, what is creating these, what is it that we're doing as humans that's creating these problems within us?
Diet, lifestyle. And by lifestyle, I'm talking about everything from what we consume in terms of grooming and hygiene products, our cleaning products, what we're watching on television, our sleep or lack of sleep, exercise or lack of exercise, what type of exercise, our social interactions. It's everything, and our diet. Those are the two things. It's what we eat and what we do. That's what's killing us as a country. Yeah.
Now, here, question, right? So from where we've come to where we're going, would you say that the food situation is getting better or getting worse? Because now, remember, not a lot of people know what's going on behind the scenes. They just see the final product that sits in the supermarket, right? So, not much thought. I just gotta, and then on top of it, how many people are really, how many people still cook, or how many people have turned to Uber or ordering food, processed food, things of this nature? Have we gotten better, or healthier in a sense, or are we getting worse when it comes to the way we prepare our foods, the foods that we order? the foods that are coming to the supermarket, you know, because sometimes people even think that they're eating clean, right? You know, a lot of times you talk to people who are in the gym and, oh, I eat clean, but they don't even realize that they might not be eating clean for a whole, you know, whole entire crop of reasons, you know, that they're not even thinking about, especially when it comes to maybe the soaps that they're using and so forth and so on. But like just strictly focusing on the foods, have we gotten better, worse? I mean, what would you say the situation out there? How's it going?
Yeah, we're in trouble. Okay, let's look at it. So in 1950, and that's even before I was born, okay? But up until 1950, we were actually doing pretty good in terms of food quality. Okay, the foods that we were growing and how much nutrients were in the foods. So they did a University of Texas at Austin, you know, Professor Daniel Davids and his team of researchers. They did this. It was kind of a landmark study. Nothing like this had really ever been done before. And they published it in 2004 in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition. They studied the U.S. Department of Agriculture's nutritional data starting from 1950 until 1999 on 43 different fruits and vegetables. And what they found were declines in the nutrient consistency of our food. So the amount of protein, the calcium, phosphorus, iron, vitamin B2, vitamin C, all of those had gone down in a half a century. Okay, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And let me just give you an example. It takes 8 oranges right now. You would have to eat 8 oranges to get the same nutritional value today that you would have gotten if you had eaten 1 orange in 1950.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it would take, apples are doing a little bit better, and I don't like to compare apples and oranges, but apples, you would have to eat, it depends on the type of apple, but kind of an average 1.5 apples to get the nutrients that you would have gotten in 1 apple in 1950. And when I kind of went through and looked at different foods, I realized that this, you know, you can't eat 8 oranges, you know, and still get in all the other foods that you need in a day. You can't do it. And I started looking at carrots and just different vegetables and going, how many carrots would I need? I would need 6 carrots to make up 1 carrot. I would need this many of that. And, you know, I started comparing, going, you can't eat that much food. Nobody can. It's our bellies just are not big enough to hold that much bulk. So, you know, so that's one thing. And now, how come? Why isn't our food good like it used to be?
Yeah,
Well,
about to ask you what caused. Yeah. Go ahead.
it's it's basically our agricultural practices changed beginning in the 1960s. We started using a lot more pesticides, you know, herbicides, fungicides. We started using synthetic fertilizers that are made of petrochemicals instead of natural fertilizers like manure. So we started changing our agricultural practices, and then they stopped doing crop rotations. In about the 1970s, I think it was about the 1970s, late 60s, they started subsidizing. The government started subsidizing certain crops, and they told farmers, "We will give you some money if you will do your crops this way. Bring in the chemicals. Don't rotate your crops from this, you know, plot of land to that plot of land like farmers had always done. Keep your animals away from the plants." So it used to be that the pigs ran around the corn stalks and they pooped and they trampled the earth and they worked it in, and the chickens came behind them and they worked it in. So the animals were constantly churning the earth and working in their dung, their excrement, the fertilizer that they were providing for the farmers. And so when the subsidies came in, now the farmers were beholden to the government to do everything their way, but it was money. So money, you know, is a big motivator. And so our agricultural practices changed. Now in the 70s, there was a movement to try and stop this and get things turned back around, because the regenerative farmers, they didn't call them that back then, but that's what we call them today. They were like, this isn't a good idea. We shouldn't be doing that. But then we started labeling them all, and they were tree huggers and granola counters and hippies, and, you know, everybody made fun of them and marginalized them. Well, there's a big resurgence for that now, because now we understand that we screwed up bad back then, and it's hurting everybody. So the regenerative farmers are coming up. They've got so much more science now to offer us, and that's a big movement. But not only, are like the minerals in the soils depleted, but the soils now, they're also contaminated because those plants, you spray something on the ground, and the rain comes, water, and that pulls whatever you sprayed down into the earth, and the plants are pulling that up through their roots and right up into the fruit. So whatever you're spraying down there, it's going up inside the fruit. And people think if they can just wash their fruit, they're fine. No, they're not spraying it on the fruit. Okay, sometimes they spray stuff in the trees, but there's a lot of this stuff they're putting down on the ground around the roots of the plant, and the plant sucks it up and it goes up into the fruit. And it's displacing what little minerals we can offer them in the soil. It's displacing them with all these petrochemicals. And when I say petrochemicals, what I mean is these chemicals are manufactured from the waste product of the petroleum industry. They take, crude oil. They're making your gasoline and the oil that goes into your car's engine and different kinds of oils like that. But then there's this waste byproduct, and that's what they use to make fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides and all kinds of things, plastic, and they use it to make medications. So just so you know, that's where it all comes from. This goes way back to 1910, right about that era. So there's that.
Now, something I don't want to get too, because I've never done the deep dive on this stuff, right? But like, I would have to think that pollution, right? The chemicals in the air, and now you hear a lot of people talk about chemtrails. I don't know so much about chemtrails, and I can't say too much about them. I know a lot of people believe in them, but I will say this: I live in the airport pathway for LaGuardia in New York, and occasionally there are times where the planes are coming over my house, and they literally come. There's one at least every 5 minutes, or maybe even less for 3 minutes. You could literally hear these things roaring over one after another after another. Now, there are times when they don't have the flight path over my house. There'll be times where I fall asleep, and some mornings I'll wake up and my nose will be like really stuffed. And I tend to find that it's the nights or the afternoons or the mornings when the planes are flying over. And there's got to be exhaust, even though they say no, but there's just the chemicals in the air, when it rains and then it comes down onto the soil as well. Like, is there anything that you're aware of that's going on there?
Yeah. So people that are not, they think the chemtrails and the contrails, that's condensation from the engine, right? The engine exhaust from airplanes. And I mean, if you look at an airplane and see that, you can see that it's a little white streak, but the little white streak's not that long, and it kind of disappears as the airplane moves forward. The chemtrails, they're chemical trails. This has been going on for a long time. Cloud seeding to influence the weather. This is not anything new.
Right. This is actually.
Anyone would doubt it, but if you look up chemtrail, you're not going to get any information. They're going to call you a conspiracy theorist. But if you look at chemical trail, or you can even look up cloud seeding, now you're going to get a lot more information. So you can just. I don't want to stay up in the air. I want to get back to the ground with our topic. But yeah, look, there's only so much we can control. I cannot control what they're doing up in the air and it falling to the ground and mixing with the rain and getting on the soil. I can't control any of that stuff. But there are a lot of things I can control. And I do want to talk about that later because there's a lot of things people can do. And I want to encourage people to do these things to try to stay as free of toxins as you can in your life. But getting back to the soils, some of the stuff that they use, fludioxonil. All right, so that one is actually, it acts like estrogen. And there's a lot of studies that are showing that, exposure to this can actually result in breast cancer cells. It also has the potential to harm the male reproductive system It's found in about 90% of our peaches and nearly 30% of I don't know, a bunch of other fruit mostly, but it's used in fruit. There's one called pyrimethanol, and it's been linked to thyroid dysfunction. We think that it's blocking some androgen receptors in the body, and that's of course going to be male hormones. But that thyroid disruption, if nobody's noticed, I mean, I've been a nurse a long time, and the numbers of people taking thyroid medicine is outrageous. They were supposed to fix that when we put iodine in the salt. Well, that didn't fix anything. It might have fixed it for a little while, but things are broken again, okay? And I think that it does have something to do with these chemicals. They found pyrimethanol in about 54% of the pears that they sampled. There's another one, pyroclostrobin. It should be that one's associated with liver toxicity and metabolic disorders. You know, here we go again. It was found in about 10% or more of all of the fruits and vegetables that they tested. About half of the strawberries and half of the cherry samples had that chemical in it. They did some animal studies with a chemical called boscalid that's found in food. It's been linked to cancer and thyroid dysfunction and disrupts our reproductive hormones. That one was found in almost half of the blueberries that they sampled and about 50% of the cherries and strawberries as well. So that's just 4 of the many, many chemicals. I didn't even talk about glyphosate that's sprayed on all of our GMO crops. Every genetically modified crop has glyphosate sprayed on it. That's why it's genetically modified. They wanted those crops to withstand glyphosate. Glyphosate is an herbicide. It kills weeds. Herbicides kill plants, okay? But if they just sprayed it to kill the weeds, they were going to kill the corn crops, the soy crops, the wheat crops, all of the beet crops, all of the crops that now are genetically modified so that they can freely spray this stuff on there. Now, you guys may recognize glyphosate when I say the word Roundup. It's the active ingredient in Roundup.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, common weed killer. It's actually been a real problem, and there's so many lawsuits. Monsanto developed it and sold it until Bayer took over. Bayer bought Monsanto, so now Bayer has bought the problem, and the problem they're having is all the lawsuits, billions of dollars in settlements is what's happening because so many people are developing so many aggressive cancers because of exposure to this stuff. So the reason they needed to genetically modify the plants is so it could withstand it. So now all of your wheat that's conventionally grown in the United States of America has glyphosate sprayed on it, not only to keep the weeds at bay, but after they harvest the wheat, they spray it on the wheat, on the heads of the wheat to desiccate it or dry it up so that they can get it to the mill and grind it into flour. So it's saturated with glyphosate. The other one are sugar beets. That's where sugar comes from now. It really isn't coming from sugar cane anymore. It's coming from sugar beets, and they're genetically modified, the sugar beet crops in this country. Soy. So your soy sauce and your edamame and anything soy that you're eating, that's from a genetically modified crop. And then corn is another big one. There are a few others, but those are the 4 big ones that are just permeated with glyphosate. And remember, corn, it's not just the corn on the cob. It's also the high fructose corn syrup. That's what they're using for sweeteners now in all the soda pops, in most of the candies. Like they're not even hardly using sugar as much anymore. It's so much easier just to use high fructose corn syrup. I want to talk about fructose in a little while. But these toxins, not only in the agricultural industry to grow the food. Oh, and by the way, if you want to circumvent some of that stuff, go organic. If it's organic, it's not genetically modified. But there are non-GMO foods that says non-GMO, but it's not organic. So you got stuff still being sprayed on it, just FYI. But so not only the stuff that we're using to grow foods is it a problem, but it's also when they send all the produce and meat and whatever, they send it to the plants, the manufacturing plants to get processed into the stuff that people are buying at the grocery stores. Now they're adding even more toxins to those foods. Okay, so and if you don't believe me, just pick up a package, turn it over, and look at the label. Read your box, your package. Don't read the part where it says how much cholesterol and protein and sugar and potassium. Forget all that. Read the part that says ingredients. If there are ingredients in there that you don't recognize, you don't know what it is, this is not real food. This is a manufactured product from a plant. I call it frankenfood. Okay, this is not real food. Real food does not come out of a manufacturing plant. Real food grows either in the form of a plant or an animal. It is not, it doesn't have a list of petrochemicals at the end of the 3 ingredients that might be recognizable. This is not real food, but this is what we're eating because it's convenient. It's quick, it's easy, and it's convenient. Or even better yet, fast, cheap, and easy, kind of like a streetwalker. Is that how you want your food? Fast, cheap, and easy. But that's what people are going to. And the same type and style quality, the same quality of food is what you're going to find in your fast food restaurants. And in your better restaurants, you might find a better quality of food, but still, do you know the source? Do you know how it was grown? Do you know where it came from? Probably not. Now we've got these restaurants that say farm to table. That's going to be your best bet if you're going to eat out. If you can find a farm to table restaurant, try to choose that one. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for just a minute. And I do want to, let's not do that. I'm just going to stop there for a minute. I don't want to overwhelm everybody because this is not a lot of good news that I'm giving here, is it?
Well, you know what? It sounds like to me, right? Code, regulations, so forth and so on. We're growing food, right? We can't have the animals taking dumps where we grow food. So let's remove all of the natural ways that the earth and the soil take minerals. So now we have to replace those minerals, or maybe not at all. So we remove the animals because that's code now, right? And now, locusts came or bugs came or, well, you know what? We have an answer for that. We're going to spray for that. Oh, and then look at what we could do over here. We could actually double the size of fruit now if we modify it this way, right? So we're doing all these things where we think that we're evolving properly when in turn we're actually drawing the minerals out of the growing area and then replacing it with chemicals that's being absorbed. So then, yeah, we are having... Right.
I'm going to jump in because you make a really good point. And remember that study that I told you about from the University of Texas where they were testing all those foods and finding that you're looking at the USDA website and finding the nutritional content in the foods had dropped so much?
Yes.
So they decided, well, what can we do to fix it? So instead of saying, well, let's fix the dirt, let's get back there and give the plant, healthier soil to grow in, they started trying to create hybridized plants that would have better nutrients, and they failed. They couldn't do it. They couldn't make the plants have better nutritional value because they weren't looking at the soil. It's like the plants have to have soil with nutrients. And you mentioned the locusts coming in, the bugs coming in. Now we want to spray for bugs. Healthy plants are very resistant to pests and diseases and stuff, but unhealthy plants will easily be decimated. Yeah.
And not to mention, but I mean, there was a time in our lives where people had gardens in the backyard, right? Like I remember my grandfather used to have a garden in the backyard. He used to water it every day. Never used any chemicals, never sprayed anything, never did anything out of the ordinary. Just water, soil, and planted his seeds. And then, he would have his salad. Oh, the cucumbers are ready. Oh, the tomatoes, aren't they delicious? Oh, and he would grow the food. And then I would remember my grandparents would, they would be so excited when it came time to, when all this stuff was ready. And they was so proud, and they would have their cucumbers. And so, that right there is a genuinely piece of, a genuine piece of grown food, opposed to a plot that is, being maximized for profit or size or to make sure the crop doesn't go bad. But in turn, the actual part where we're planting in is becoming useless, or where, it might be growing, but we're lacking the proper nutrients in our food. But who would really know? I mean, except ApotheCarol, right? Or everyone in the business. So like, for example, Ed on Holy Health, right? And so, listen to all of these experts talk, and it's like, whoa, that's not something I ever thought of. That's not something that, it's think about the normal person. I'm eating clean. And yet, are you really eating clean? You might be eating super clean and you don't even realize it. You hear a lot of people always talk about if you have access to a farmer's market. For instance, in New York, out on Long Island, all the farms are out on the end of the island. And at the farms, they all have, racks, and they all present their food. And most people will shop at the farmer's market because they trust that food has been grown farm fresh, or farm straight to table. So you see, certain places, certain people have the right idea, but where people are shopping, they might not be paying attention or being aware of any of this. I guess in a sense, that's my take on the whole situation. This is not even something that I was aware of until I started getting on Holy Health, which is your space on X. And, all of a sudden it's like, this is not something that I would have thought of, because I would be trusting my source of food, right? Like, we trust when you go to any supermarket and you're going through the vegetables and you're trusting the source of food. Meanwhile, they're trying to see how they can get this, how can we get this watermelon to live longer than we've ever had it live, because, maybe we could alter a couple things, which would then, maybe make things more profitable because it wouldn't go so bad, which gives it a longer shelf life. And all, yeah, that's great, but like, we're hurting ourselves in the long run. So, contaminated soils, lack of minerals, added toxins, right? Do you want to touch on the carbohydrates next?
We can. I want to just jump in. You mentioned the farmers markets and garden, growing your own garden. A lot of people say, oh, but ApotheCarol, I don't like vegetables. Ew, the broccoli, yuck. And, I don't like all that. And I just want to eat, junk. and I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you. Because the tomatoes and the cucumbers and the broccoli and things that you buy at the supermarket, they don't taste right. That's not how it's meant to taste. You need to really walk outside your back door, pick it off of the plant and stick it straight into your mouth and notice the difference. When it's fresh and it's grown correctly with good healthy soil in a microbiome rich environment, the way it's supposed to be, the taste is indescribable. It's just not the same. Anyway, let's we can go into. I mean, instead of going to carbohydrates per se, because we can go into macronutrients, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, but instead of kind of breaking it down like that, let's real quick touch on something that is a problem, and everybody knows it's a problem. We can all look around. All you have to do is go to Walmart. You can see it's a problem, and in this country, obesity. So that we can. There's a lot of things that we can talk about in terms of obesity, like carbohydrate intake. NAFLD. NAFLD is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD. Insulin levels, food pyramids. There's a lot of things that go into obesity. But once upon a time, obesity was useful. Like back when we were hunter-gatherers and there were times of feast and there were times of famine. Even back, during the Irish potato famine, what was that, like the 1840s? There were times when things were plentiful and we had lots to eat and we kind of fattened up a little bit because a season would be coming where food was not as abundant and we could live off of our fat stores a little bit better. And we still kind of see some of this happen naturally, like during a pregnancy. You know, the mother will not just get a big belly, but she'll, you know, put a little fat onto maybe her hips, her breasts, her arms. You know, she'll kind of store up a little bit more fat just in case there was a famine and she still needed to survive and the baby needed to survive, right? But we don't have feast and famine periods anymore. We don't have that. So we just have no need for storing fat. And so now obesity, and because we never use the fat, we don't have the famine to be able to live off of that fat. So when obesity becomes unhealthy is when it's chronic, and that's what we've got. We've got people running around. They're chronically obese. In other words, they're fat all the time. It's happening all the time. And the more obese you are, the more likely you are to develop a fatal illness. Um, Obesity is a comorbidity for a fatal illness. Now, in this country, 70% of all Americans are obese. 43%, I think, no, I'm sorry, 70% are overweight and 43% are obese. And then there's a smaller percent that's morbidly obese. Okay, so it's kind of broken down. And we do, you know, in the last, I don't know, 8 years, 10 years maybe, they decided that obesity would be a diagnosis, but really it's not. It's a symptom for a metabolic disease, all right? So people, you know, you go to the doctor and he's like, well, it's easy. You just burn more calories than you take in and you're going to lose weight. That's not true. And a lot of people will tell you, I tried that. I did that. I did exactly what my doctor said and I gained 5 pounds. Yeah, that's not true. Not all calories are created equal. For example, a candy bar is going to be probably roughly 200 calories. And it's not going to have any nutrition at all. It might have a tiny bit of potassium, like maybe 100 grams of potassium. Potassium. But you need a lot more potassium than that in a day, especially if you're sweating. So there's really not any other nutrients in that candy bar. It's just a bunch of empty calories. 200 calories. You think, well, 200, that's not too bad. Well, okay. 3 hard-boiled eggs have 200 calories, and that is the most nutrient-dense food we have, just about, is an egg. Tons of nutrition in that egg. Those chickens are eating bugs galore. High protein, they've got these high protein diets. They get a lot of dirt and grit stuff in their mouth, lots of minerals that they take in, and all that comes out in their little eggs. So much nutrition in that egg because it's got to make a little baby chicken. It's supposed to grow a baby chicken, right? So extremely nutrient dense. 300 calories for 3 hard-boiled eggs. I can't hold 3 hard-boiled eggs. I could eat a candy bar if I wanted to and eat the whole thing and probably want another one. But I can't hold 3 hard-boiled eggs in my belly. So that's not a lot of calories in one meal, 3 hard-boiled eggs. But now it's going to take you 40 minutes of brisk walking to burn off 200 calories, whether it's a candy bar or a hard-boiled egg. You don't need to burn off that much of something that's very nutrient dense. Your body's going to use that nutrition. But with a candy bar, your body's simply going to take that sugar and store it as fat. There's nothing in there the body can use. So it's going to take all of that and store it as fat. Let's look at a muffin. That one's even more fun because lots of people like to eat muffins for breakfast, right? A muffin, it takes about 2 minutes. Yeah. Okay, blueberry. It takes about 2 minutes to eat a muffin. There's 500 calories in your average muffin. Okay. To burn that many calories, it's going to take you 40 minutes of continuous running, not walking. 40 minutes of continuous running to burn off one muffin. And as you probably know from experience, exercise kind of makes you hungry, right? I worked up an appetite. Yeah. So you're going to eat that muffin that really doesn't have any nutrient value in there. It's got wheat in it. Yeah, I know it's got wheat in it. There's no nutrients in wheat. Did you know that? That's why on the bread, on the package, it says vitamin enriched. They have to enrich it. There's no nutrition in there at all. Wheat has no nutrients.
Yeah.
So you're filling up. Now you got your little dried up blueberries. I'll give you your little dried up blueberries, okay? But the rest of the muffin's got nothing in there that your body needs or wants. It's all carbohydrates. If you don't go run for 40 minutes, your body's going to take that muffin and it's going to store it up as fat. So you're not going to exercise away a bad diet. It's impossible to exercise or to out exercise poor nutrition. It's not going to happen. And then what will happen though is later on you're going to be hungry again, and you're not even really hungry. It's just you feel hungry. Your body's telling you you're hungry because it's saying we need nutrients, we need protein, we need fat, we need minerals, we need vitamins. You gave us nothing for breakfast. We stored away all that, muffin. That was no good. Give us something we need. And so you feel hungry. It triggers leptin, which creates that ghrelin response that we think is hunger, but it's not hunger. You're not hungry. Go to Africa and live there for a while, and then come back and talk to me about being hungry, okay? That's not hungry. That's just your body screaming for nutrients. You didn't give it anything it needed with that muffin, or 2 muffins, or 10 muffins, or however many muffins you think you can outrun. All right. So this is the problem: is we're taking in the wrong calories. If you take in the right calories, you don't need to exercise nearly as much. You're going to not only while you're exercising are you going to be building bone density and building muscle, but after you're done exercising, if you have the right nutrients, you're going to continue to build that muscle for a while. It's going to continue building for a time. So getting the bad calories in there, that's just not a good idea. So I want to kind of give my mouth a little rest and see if you got any questions for that part of the discussion.
So there's no hand here, and I there's so many things that jump into my head while you're speaking, and I'm like, don't interrupt her. She doesn't like being interrupted, and like, we got no space. I can't put my hand up, right? Yeah, as a matter of fact, so, we've spoke a little bit about my past and a little bit about me. At one point in time, I was 255, 265. I'm about 5'7", 5'8", some in between there. And, yeah, so I blew out both my knees playing football, and I ended up getting both my knees repaired. And I had spoke to the doctor, and I asked him, I'm like, yeah, his name was Dr. Levy. And I remember asking him, like, why do my knees keep going out? And he's like, yeah, you're a little overweight. And I'm like, well, what do you mean overweight? And so he would be like, well, have you seen the weight charts? And I'm like, the weight charts where they say like 5'7", 5'8", I should be like 141 pound weight charts? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, whoa, wait, you serious about that? I'm like, I'm going to look like a twig if I've exercised nearly half my life. I can't get myself past 210, 205. The big joke used to be when with me and my friends were, I'm on a diet, I lost some weight. They'd be like, yeah, what are you, 210? Because I never could get past that. For some reason, I never understood about how the body worked and the food that I was putting in it. So, through my journey and through my weight loss journey, I would remember a lot of people saying, I would always say, I want abs. I'm going to get abs. I'm determined to get abs. And a lot of people would say, well, to have a good looking body, it's not so much it's 90% diet, 10% gym. And I'd be like, that's crazy. Like, how do you say that? But then as I started to tweak and change my diet, and now correct me if I'm wrong, but the body, when it takes insulin, right? Sugar, when you eat let's say a soda, which could be anywhere, grape or Sunkist could be easily 45 grams of sugar, right? So let's say you drink 2 sodas a day, right? 3 sodas. I mean, that's immediately, and then, you could break it down to sugar cubes, right? And how much the body should have and not have, and then processed sugar. Now, this technically signals or raises your insulin, if I'm correct. And then when you raise your insulin your body thinks it's damaged. So your body immediately your insulin tells your body start storing fat. Store it all. Something's wrong. We need to protect ourselves. And then, your weight increases. So if you don't have your diet right, or perfect. So, 2 of the things that I did, is I cut sugar out. Obviously, that was number one. Like sugar went and down, so it was only natural sugars, which is fruits. So even, even now, if I have a urge to eat something sweet, I'll like turn to a fig or a dried date or a fig, which is a high amount of sugar, but it does not, for some reason, have the same effect as it would as like, let's say, a bowl of ice cream or maybe a cookie or something where there's sugar involved in the creation of it. Where you always, for instance, this is a great thing, right? Apple juice. Apple juice is one of the best things for you. Why? They say an apple a day keep the doctor away. Why? Because there is a chemical within the apple called pectate. And pectate has an effect on cleans, essentially, from what I understand, cleans the blood. It will clean up, what do they call that? Cholesterol or bad particles that are in the blood, this pectate, which then in turn cleans the blood. So there used to be this big thing where if you drink apple juice, right? Apple juice, if you get the natural apple juice with the natural sugars in it, and the way you determine that is by looking at the label, and you'll see no additive sugars. It'll still have, a glass of apple juice will still have 25 sugars, which is about 10 sugars less than a glass of soda. But if you ever see like the processed orange juice that people drink, it'll say additive sugars, 30 additive sugars, 45, 20 additive sugars. If you look at soda, there are 45 additive sugars. Any type of processed apple juice will have additive sugars, but the real pressed apple juice will have just natural sugars. It'll say 25, 30 sugars. But when you have a glass of this apple juice, these natural sugars do not seem to have the same effect on your body that a processed sugar would. And so that's just something that I learned. That's how I tailored my diet. And when I tailored my diet, the weight just fell off. Adding the gym to my diet just made the weight like disappear within. And so I always used to refer to actors, and I always used to say, well, actors have the best health coaches because they tailor their diets very specifically, gain weight, lose weight. They have possession of knowledge that we don't have. And now with the internet, it's like we all have this knowledge. So that's just something I learned on my journey, which I found that when I removed processed sugars from everything, I mean, I was literally paid attention to everything. And then I tailored my diet in different ways, that's not necessarily good or bad for you. That was just my choice of the way I ate. But it was the sugars I found that, and then you don't even realize the additive sugars in milk, additive sugars everywhere. But people think they're eating healthy, and they don't realize what the addition or adding up all of those little additive sugars. Granola bar. Oh, I'm gonna have a power bar. Like, does it have additive sugars in it? So yeah, I just wanted to say that. I'm not sure if you wanted to touch on any of that, but that's just something I learned from my journey.
They put sugar in saltine crackers.
Yeah, they put sugar in everything. Everything.
And going back to fruit, I do want to talk about fructose a little bit. That's the sugar that's in fruit. And you'd mentioned like in an apple, it's got pectin. So what happens is when we eat an apple, that pectin, it's actually in the fiber of the apple, the actual physical structure of the apple, not just the juice, but the pulp. So when we eat an apple, that pectin releases those sugars very, very slowly into our system, and that's how we don't drive up the insulin levels. When we drink a fruit juice, that's basically, it's liquid sugar because fruit has sugar in it, and we're just taking out the water and the sugar and drinking that down straight. So I want to talk about, before I get into this with the fructose, because I'm going to lead into it by talking about NAFLD again, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now remember, it's just like you said, Whenever we eat sugar, and wheat, I consider wheat to be sugar. I'm going to tell you why. It's as soon as wheat touches your tongue, it begins converting into sugar immediately. And as it goes through the digestive process, it is processed as a sugar. It's a carbohydrate, wheat. So everything, your breads, your cereals, your pizza crust, your pastas, your anything that's got wheat in it. Okay, so but what happens is just like you described, we eat the sugar, and our insulin's like, okay, we've got sugar on board, or your body says release the insulin. The pancreas releases the insulin, and then that helps to um, drive the sugar into the cells. Now, when the cells of the body are saturated, the remaining sugar has nowhere to go. So if there's too much of it, then it kind of stores up its fat cells, and one of the places it stores up its fat cells is in your liver. Now, your liver is necessary for filtering toxins out of your body. We need it, that's why people get cirrhosis if they're heavy drinkers, is because they're filtering that alcohol all the time. Your body doesn't want that alcohol, and it filters down through the liver. It filters out a lot of nasty things that your body doesn't want. Your kidneys are another filtration system. But the liver really takes a beating. All of your medications, all these toxins you're taking in, your liver's trying to filter this stuff out, but it gets really congested. And with the the fat accumulation, because of our excessive carbohydrate intake in this country, we end up with NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and it is the leading cause of liver transplants in the United States. It used to be cirrhosis, but it is far exceeded cirrhosis now in people requiring liver transplants because of NAFLD. But diagnosing it is a problem. We know that a lot more people have it than have actually been diagnosed, because what they use is they use a blood test where they test liver enzymes, but it's not a good indicator. The only other way to do it is a liver biopsy, but you can't go around poking needles in people, taking biopsies just to see if they've got NAFLD. So it's very underdiagnosed. We know that the problem is very, very prevalent, and it's a real problem, and we don't even notice it. People don't notice it until they're in the very late stages of it, and now they're looking at liver transplants sometimes. So it's a very serious problem, and a lot of it is because of the sugar intake. Also, the sugar, if you will take some sugar and look at it under a microscope, it looks like little tiny shards of glass. Even after the sugar is kind of dissolved into a liquid form, it will still look like that. And that's what goes coursing through your blood, your circulatory system. Those little shards of glass start cutting up this circulatory system, your veins and your arteries. And your body's like, oh my gosh, we've got we got damage. We've got to do something. And just like you would plaster a wall, the body plasters the blood vessels, and it uses cholesterol to do it.
Huh.
If you don't have enough cholesterol, your body will make more. Your brain is 70% cholesterol. Cholesterol is a coating on every single nerve that you've got, including your spinal cord. It is in the wall of every single cell of your body. It makes up the cell wall that creates the boundary for that cell. You cannot manufacture hormones without cholesterol. Cholesterol is important. That's why we got so stinking sick on these low cholesterol diets. This was a driving force, and we ended up with all this NAFLD and all this diabetes and all these other problems because we were restricting cholesterol. And when they took the fat out of the food, what happened? It tasted horrible. So they couldn't have that. They're not going to sell horrible tasting food. So what did they do? They put sugar. So it tastes better. So yeah, we got inundated with sugar, and now we got these other problems that have come up as a result. That's why the cancer rates have soared, the diabetes rates, the heart disease rates. That's why all of these disease processes have soared, is because we've increased the amount of sugar that we are eating in this country. And that kind of goes back into history. I don't want to make a big history lesson out of that, but that's the problem we're faced with now. So up until the 70s, most liver disease was created from alcoholism. And now alcohol and fructose. Fructose is your high fructose corn syrup from corn. It's the sugar that we find in fruits, called fructose. Alcohol and fructose are both metabolized pretty much the same way, almost 100% by the liver. And it ends up getting stored as these tiny little lipid droplets. Lipids are fats, little fat droplets in the liver. Now we have our culprit for our non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, okay? And fructose will do the same type of thing in the brain in much the same way. For craving sugar, it's very, very similar. What's going on in the brain is they do studies and they find these sugar cravings. It's very, very similar to what we see when a person experiences alcohol cravings, when an alcoholic experiences cravings for alcohol. When people think about fructose, we think of it, this is a healthy sugar, but it's kind of really not. Actually, glucose might actually be healthier for us, you know, and it's because of that glycation process, and that is making things, you know, glycate, glucose, you know, same root word, sugar affecting a protein, ruining, messing up a protein. We call that glycation. So we got these sugars screwing up our proteins, and it's messing up our cardiovascular systems. It's doing the damage that we used to blame cholesterol for. Well, in the past, I'm going to get on to another subject here, but I kind of drive that point home because we had it wrong for so long. And I remember as a young nurse, I believed everything, that they were saying to me in nursing school, that we were preaching in the hospitals, that they were showing on TV, on the news, the front of every magazine and newspaper. There was articles all the time about cholesterol, 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 cholesterol. I'm going to do a series of videos on cholesterol because what they used to do that were a bunch of fraudulent studies. They knew the studies were fraudulent, but it was the sugar industry that was pushing for this. And that's part of history that happened in the 60s and 70s, 1960s, 1970s, that influenced everything from the 80s forward. The people have caught on. And, I've been talking about this for years now because I caught on years ago. And everyone thought I was crazy. But now there's a bunch of books on it. There's a bunch of doctors talking about it. I'm not the only one saying this stuff now. It's time that we take this boat and turn it around, or we're going to hit the iceberg. It's happening.
I'm going to jump in here real quick, and I'm just going to share a couple thoughts, and then you could take it from there, or we can move on, right? Sugar. I would wage war against sugar. Number one, people don't realize sugar is a commodity on the stock market. There is a shit ton of money in sugar. Secondly, I feel that sugar is up there. I think there's three serious, I feel like sugar. So when I cut myself, I was big into soda, and when I cut sugar out of my diet, I remember I woke up one night in a cold sweat. And I didn't know what was, I was fiending for something, and I didn't know what, was wrong with me. And I, rushed to my kitchen, and I remember diving in the counter and opening, and I I need something, right? And I went for these sun-kissed sodas, and they were warm, and it didn't matter. I was cracking them open. I was drinking them. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I'm like, holy shit, I think I'm fiending sugar. My body is looking for this. And, it occurred to me that I see sugar almost within the same destruction, especially with the human body. I see it up there as strong as internet attention addiction. I've seen internet attention, social media addiction, and then any type of drug use as far as heroin or I don't think sugar is just something that you just put down. I think your body, starts to look for it and fiend for it, and you don't realize it. And then, the next day you go back to I can't eat like that. And then you go back to your routine. And instead of replacing it, with some, and so, people don't realize how big of a market sugar is, right? When you're a kid. And this shit right here blows my mind. When you're a kid, you turn on Saturday morning cartoons. And then what comes on during the commercials? Apple Jacks, Captain Crunch, Frosted Flakes, right? All these commercials for these cereals, Lucky Charms, Crunch with the new Crunch Bread, Choco Rice Krispies, right? And the sugars in these things, right? So as a kid, and what do they write on the box? A part of a balanced, nutritious breakfast. Are they like that's absolutely bananas to me, because nobody should be having 40 grams of sugar in the morning. And then they ask, and then but my kid's ADD and he can't sit still. Let's give him a pill for that so we could calm him down, because he's just clearly has a lot of energy. Like, yes, stop feeding your kids 60 grams of sugar in the morning, and so like this, and now, I don't understand why why is my kid gaining weight? And now your kid's gaining weight at an extraordinary young age. But so basically from a young child, you are training your child to be used to this sugar, this chemical that is literally destroying your body the second you put it in you. And when you're younger, your metabolism, it's like a car, right? If you keep putting bad gas in a car, it's going to run for a certain amount of time. But then at a certain point, like, it's going to catch up, and you're going to start seeing the effects of it one way or another. The human body can only handle so much. I think we overeat. I think we overeat mainly because we got this thing in our head where it's like, we got to have 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. These are the most important meals. Don't miss them. But like, what if you're not burning off all of that? What if you're not burning off all of those numbers? Like, what if you're not watching those numbers and you think you're just eating it, then you add sugar to the mix? Man. So, I mean, those are just some of my thoughts when you speak about sugar, because even today, sweets are my downfall, right? Like, you cannot put a box of Entenmann's near me, especially the chocolate donut. People are like, oh, Mark, how do you do it? Like, I don't let the shit in the house. Like, I don't bring it in. I keep it away from me as much as possible, because, you put one of those, I could devour. You put a box of chocolate Entenmann's donuts in front of me with the yellow centers, I could take out that whole box in like one. And so people eat these meals where they think they're full, but then 5 minutes later, it's like, oh, I'm hungry again, because of what you said, that you're not putting the right ingredients or nutrients into your body. So that's just some thoughts I had on that. I don't know if you wanted to pick it up or start fresh.
So here's where I piss people off. Okay. For years, the tobacco companies got people addicted to cigarettes because they put chemicals into those cigarettes that got people addicted to the cigarettes. There are 499 chemicals in a commercial cigarette, and some of those chemicals are designed to addict you. Normal organic tobacco, like the Indians used to grow and smoke, that stuff wasn't addictive. This stuff is, okay? So number one, and everybody, oh, cigarette smoking, that's so bad. Everyone's sick smokers, all those bad smokers. We need to ban the bad smokers, make them sit outside, and terrible, horrible, no good, very bad smokers. Well, let me tell you something. In the 1980s, Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds, 2 tobacco companies, they acquired Kraft, General Foods, and Nabisco. And the same chemicals they were using to addict smokers to cigarettes, they started putting in the food. It's still in there. Addictive chemicals are in those foods. Okay? So let's make fun of cigarette smokers, overeaters. You're just as addictive for exactly the same reasons.
Right.
But so easy for them to stop smoking, though, isn't it? Habitual addictive eaters. Look, nobody calls. No pots get to call kettles black around here. Not with me. All right, and it's not cute. The M&M addiction is not cute. You're running in there in the middle of the night slamming hot sodas. It's not cute. None of this stuff is cute. That I'm just so addicted to Doritos. It's not cute. It's killing you. Nothing that's killing you is cute. So everybody needs to stop pretending like this is okay and normalizing obesity and normalizing food addictions and normalizing eating crap. It is not okay. I'm a nurse. I got to pick up the pieces. I'm, 43 years of this, and I've pretty much had enough. I'm going to retire in 3 years. I will have spent, by the time I retire, I will have spent half a century cleaning up after this bullshit. I want to retire. Quit eating the bullshit. Yeah, we really know. In all seriousness, this is what's killing America. It's our food and our lack of movement, our poor sleep habits. You mentioned, addiction to devices and stuff. All of these things are toxic. The EMFs, radiation, the 5G. I mean, there's so much, but there's some things we can't do anything about. You get to control what goes in your mouth. If you can't control what goes in your mouth, then I don't want you bitching about anybody else. Cigarette smokers, heroin addicts, I don't want to hear a word from you. If you can't control what you put in your mouth, come on.
Quick question. What's your thoughts and feelings on, and I always felt like this was drinking straight acid. What's your thoughts on energy drinks?
Yeah, go ahead and drink battery acid and get it done with quicker. Yeah, you might as well drink battery acid. That's my opinion.
Yeah, those. So a lot of times, energy. I mean, twice the sugars. Then you got the caffeine plowed in there, and
other chemicals. They're putting other chemicals in there, and that's insane amounts of caffeine. Look, I enjoy a cup of coffee as much as the next guy, but that's insane. You can do serious heart damage with that particular combination of caffeine and sugar. That can do some serious damage to your heart. No, I'm not for that stuff. That's not good. Next question.
Go ahead.
So my message is just stop. Stop paying to be poisoned. Every time you go through the checkout line and you whip out your debit card or your Apple Pay or whatever you're paying with, you are voting with your dollars. You work for your money, don't you? I mean, I know I work for my money. I work damn hard for my money. And now I'm going to take it and I'm going to vote yes for a company, for a product that's damaging me. I'm not going to do that. I'm not willing to give them my money if they're going to put something out there that's damaging me. And then, but I am willing to pay, and I'm even willing to pay a little extra for something that is actually going to help my health. Your food is your medicine. And a lot of people will present me with the argument, oh, the FDA would never allow that to happen. Let me tell you something. 70% of FDA funding comes from the pharmaceutical industry because you get sick with these metabolic disorders, and guess who's standing there ready with some pill bottles? Either you, your parents, or your grandparents. I promise. You go and look. Somebody's got a whole collection of pill bottles. Go and look. That's why. That's why they do it. The FDA is turning a blind eye to a lot of this stuff. And what they'll tell you is they'll say, oh, that little bit in that food, that's not hurting anything. And that little bit right there, that's not hurting anything. And that little bit, and that little bit, and that little bit. And it all adds up. And yes, it is killing us. It's absolutely. And the EPA is saying the same thing about the pesticides and fungicides and herbicides. If it ends in "-side" as a suffix, homicide, suicide, it means death. Why are we pouring death on our crops? No, there are better ways of doing things, and they absolutely work. So the other thing that's really bad, I've been harping on sugar for a while because it's public enemy number one, but public enemy number 1 point, 1 point or 2.1, whatever, the next public enemy is going to be your seed oils. So they're in everything, just like high fructose corn syrup. It's in everything. Canola oil is from the rapeseed. It's a seed oil. Forget that canola oil. You've got these hydrogenated oils. You've got these, safflower oil, sunflower oil, all these seed oils. Stop with the seed oils. That stuff is killing you. That's causing your skin cancers. It's not the sun that's causing skin cancers. It's eating things that have seed oils. Good luck finding a processed food that doesn't have seed oils. But why are they using them? Because they're cheap. Fast, cheap, and easy. Okay. The oils you want is going to be your extra virgin olive oil. Make sure, be careful though, the quality, because there's some bad ones, and they're mixing them with the canola oil and putting extra virgin olive oil on the label. You got to be really careful. Coconut oil is fine. Butter, use butter. What's wrong with butter? There's nothing wrong with butter. There is nothing whatsoever wrong with butter. They lied to us. Lard, there's nothing wrong with lard. They brought Crisco in. That was killing everybody. Don't use Crisco, but you can use lard. You can use beef tallow to cook with. That's perfectly fine. That's very, very healthy for you. Those are good, solid, healthy fat. You need more fat in your diet. You're going to stay more satiated. You're going to get nutrients. You know, all this carbohydrate. There's only 3 macronutrient groups: protein, carbohydrate, and fat. Why did we make fat out to be the redheaded stepchild? No, fat is the hero. Fat is what we really need more of in our lives, okay? Avoid sugar. I already said fruit juice is not fruit. Sugars are added to all processed foods. You want to always look for nutrient-dense foods. Maybe, but I'm never going to get that feed again. Oh, wow, like a little baby. I can't have that, Mommy. I'm so sad. You guys, I've heard it all. Look, just, you can have a little treat every so often when the moon is full. You can have a treat on the full moon, okay? Or something like that.
Friday nights.
People can't even limit themselves, but that's the thing. They go, well, I can cheat on Friday night. Well, Tuesday's close enough to Friday. Well, Wednesday, it'll be okay. I'll skip Friday. Oh, it's Friday, I get to cheat. People start doing this stuff. I see it over and over because I do nutrition counseling with people, and they do this over and over again, and I do hold them accountable, and I do. But the easiest way to do it is just to not do it. Just like quitting smoking. Okay, well, you can go smoking on Friday nights, and everybody's good with that? Oh, but we're okay with eating sugar on Friday nights. Gotcha. Never mind. I understand. Fat is not the bad guy, and you're going to be more satiated. Salt is not the bad guy. That's another thing they lied to us about. They did a study in 181 different countries, and they found that increasing salt, and by salt I don't mean that thing in the blue round deal, the little girl with the umbrella. That's not salt. That table salt stuff in the restaurants and that you probably have in your house, that's not real salt. That is laboratory manufactured sodium chloride. Get real salt. Pink Himalayan sea salt, be careful. They're dyeing it pink and making you think it's pink Himalayan sea salt, so be very careful. And go with sea salt, Celtic sea salt, gray sea salt. You can get, there's a product called Real Salt. It's the name of it, Real Salt, and the company is Redmond's. It comes out of the salt, the dry seed beds in Utah. The old dried up seed beds, that's real salt. Salt is not the bad guy. They found that eating more salt than what your doctor is going to tell you is okay to eat, that eating salt, people that have a good quantity of quality salt actually had longer lifespans. It increases your cortisol levels, it lowers your cortisol, it lowers your adrenaline levels, it boosts your hydration, and it boosts your metabolism. Salt is not the enemy. It's actually good for you. Fix your food addictions. It's not cute. You think you're hungry. You're not hungry. You have a craving because you're not getting your nutrients. Are you craving chocolate? It's because you've got a magnesium deficiency. Are you wanting to chew ice? You've got an iron deficiency. Craving signals something is not right. Something you're needing, you're not getting. When you're eating real salt, you are getting a big array of minerals. That's where your deficiencies are. No minerals are not in your foods. Minerals. Everyone gets sick of hearing me talk about minerals. Minerals are more important than vitamins. There's a couple of vitamins that are super important, but mostly it's minerals that are a problem. That's where you're depleted. You've got to get more minerals. Also, you're right. This whole thing about eating 3 times a day, that was fine when everybody was out working in the fields or out trying to forage and washing clothes by hand and tanning their own leather and all of these things that we used to have to do to survive. That was great, but we don't do any of that stuff anymore. You don't need 3 meals a day. Look up intermittent fasting. Take all of your food and put it into about an 8 to 10 hour window. Anything outside that 8 to 10 hour window, you don't need to be eating. Drink more water. Put a little tiny pinch of real salt in your water. Get yourself mineralized, and it'll curb your hunger when you're first learning how to do this. And you guys are just eating too much. You just eat. And then every once in a while, you should fast for 24 hours or even 3 days. Those things create autophagy where your body gets rid of all the trash, all the junk cells that are dying, and sick cells, the cancer cells, all the bad stuff. Your body will destroy those things and get rid of that stuff. If you'll just fast every once in a while, it's all it takes is just, what? Delayed gratification. You're an adult. You can't do this. Come on. You're an adult. You can do this. You can go 40 days without food before you'll die. 3 is not going to kill you. Day 2 is difficult. I will say, I understand you have some compassion for me. Day 2 is difficult, but after that, you're home free. And we got to get rid of the toxins in our environment. It's not just in our food. It's in our cosmetics. It's in our cleaning products, our cleaning supplies. It's in our laundry supplies. It's in the airplane seats, the flame retardants in the airplane seats. They did a test. It soaks through people's pants. They tested them on this side of the Atlantic. They gave them an airplane flight over to Europe. At the other end, they drew blood again, and they found the flame retardant in the airplane seats inside the people. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. You cannot get away from toxins, but you can control some things. You can control everything you purchase as you go through that checkout line. Everything. Look for things that are clean, that don't have petrochemicals in them. Look for things that you know what that ingredient is. That ingredient grew out of the ground, or it grew from its mother's womb, or from an egg. Plants and animals. Plants and animals. Look for that stuff. Oh, I went on for a long time that time.
Yeah, no, Big Money's over on Facebook and he's loving the show. He's dropping comments over here. He's
Hi,
he's
Big Money.
you're one of his faves. He's saying absolutely little cheating turns into a lot of cheating. The water fasting, right? So the basic, a lot of people, don't realize. With the water fasting, you have to get your body to a point where all the food is out of your system. And then that's when like that magic point really happens, because then your body starts to turn to your body and its fat cells and starts to eat the cells and use the cells as the energy when there's nothing left. And so usually that, I think if I remembered correctly, there was, I'm not going to say anything because I don't remember the factual number, but there was a certain amount of hours where when you started the water fast, and you got to a certain point, I don't know if it was 36, but like there's a certain point where the food there's nothing left in your body. And it's at that moment when you continue, when your body starts to turn on itself, and then it says, okay, let's start using all the stored energy that we have, and let's start eating away at whatever we have. And then that's when the body, I believe, turns on itself and it starts to, peel away all the stuff that it could use for energy, meaning the excess, all the excess, everything that we have. Yeah. And avocados. I think avocados are excellent fats, if I remember correctly. Natural fats.
Favorite. Love avocados. My favorite. Good source of fat.
Especially mixed with some pink some real salt. We'll say that, right? Okay. So believe it or not, our show's cooking. 10:25, right? Why don't we focus on, and guys, so we have, I think Josh is on, we have, hang on, we got Josh. I don't know if we got questions. So Josh is asking, he's curious, what chemical?
I lost audio. Mark?
Yeah, that's me. That's me. Hang on. That's me. That's me.
Oh, okay. All right. What was the question? What chemical what?
So Josh was curious. Do you know are there particular chemicals as far as what they used in the cigarettes that they used in the food?
You know what? I might have that in my notes. Hang on.
Okay. All right, give me a second. Josh is checking her notes. All right, so for the rest of you guys, we have the comments open if there are any questions or any comments you guys want to join in. And as she checks her notes, go. I'm just going.
Let's see.
How do you organize your notes, Carol?
Yeah, right. You're assuming they're organized.
You should talk. You and Josh should have a conversation. He'll have you on one note, in no time. So I was a mess with my notes too, and so Josh is a great source of information, especially when it comes to getting organized. Turn me on to
But
this
I've
program.
got my notes for beauty products. I've got my notes for cleaning products. I don't think I have my for the food, the chemicals in the foods. In this, I've got a little notebook in my iPad. I try, Josh. I really do. But all this technology, I don't know, man. I'm a boomer. Give me a break.
Okay. um, all right. Let's get. Okay. So we kind of talked about the problem, and everything about the problem, right? So why don't we focus a little bit, possibly on maybe solutions, right? What are some solutions that everyone can do that could possibly, you know, um, correct or better, or maybe fix? Are there things that we can do to heal? But not only that, but how to avoid some of these things that are happening.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want everybody to just take a deep breath and think, because I'm first I want you to know that because some of this stuff, it creeps up on you. It starts when you're really kind of in your mom's womb, is when it get based on how she's eating, but it goes all the way through childhood. They think it's cute to give you little sips of soda when you're a baby, and because your face hits that, it's at that bliss point and your face lights up. The bliss point is something that the food manufacturers use. It's very scientific. Their laboratories are more impressive than the pharmaceutical industry's laboratories. It's amazing. But they've got this down to a science. Where is that bliss point that makes your brain light up the same way it lights up when you do cocaine? That's what they're looking for. They match it to how the brain lights up with the electrodes on your head, between the food, and does it do the same light up that it does on cocaine? That's what they're trying to do. I'm dead serious about this. Look up bliss point. Okay. But how do you know? Because it's crept up on you from you were really young. How do you know that you might be developing a problem? I mean, you can go have a jillion test run at your doctor's office. Personally, why bother? But it might be that you've got GERD or basic acid reflux, heartburn. That's kind of been a problem for you lately. You've noticed, no matter what you eat or drink, it's happening a little more often. Okay, brain fog. You just have these days you're just not thinking as clearly as you used to, and some days are better than others. Some days are worse than others, based on what you've been eating. Weight problems. If you got a weight problem and you're like, yeah, I know I need to lose weight, and yeah, I know my sister, she looks wonderful, but I don't, and I can't lose weight, whatever. If you got a weight problem, that's a sign that there's a problem. Frequent infections. If you're getting lots of urinary infections, lots of respiratory infections, skin rashes and problems and stuff, there's a problem. Metabolic. Chronic pain or inflammation. You had mentioned your knees, Mark. Other people have problems with their back and say, well, it was an injury. Well, you know what? Your body should have been able to heal that. How come your body couldn't heal an injury, especially when you're young? Your body should have been able to fix that, but it can't. Why? Because you don't have the building blocks to fix. You don't even have enough minerals to fix anything. That's what's happening. And the inflammation, again, that has a lot to do with metabolism as well. Low energy. That you're like, why am I so tired all the time? Oh yeah, I stayed up too late. Why are you staying up too late? Oh, because I can't sleep. Why can't you? We could go on and on and on. This is a problem, and it's fixable. It really is at the metabolic level. Depression and anxiety. Sorry, but your food has a lot to do with your depression and your anxiety. It just does. And people go, no, it doesn't. My doctor says it's a chemical imbalance. Yes, from the chemicals you're eating. Yeah, it is. It's a problem. So, I mean, and there's even more, but those are kind of some of the common ones that we see as people are starting to develop, as they're starting to develop these metabolic disorders. And if they don't turn the boat around now, you're going to end up on some pills. You're going to end up with some kind of heart diagnosis or diabetes diagnosis. And even then, it's not too late to turn it around, but you better get you somebody that knows what they're doing, because your doctor didn't know how to do it. I'm sorry, but your doctor does not know how. Their curricula was written by the pharmaceutical industry and designed for them to medicate you, diagnose you and medicate you, diagnose and medicate, diagnose, and then maybe do surgery now and then. But that's what they're trained to do: diagnose and medicate. They do not get any nutrition courses. Go ask them. They'll have one class that says, okay, if they have heart disease, tell them don't eat salt and send them to the dietitian. If they have diabetes, tell them don't eat sugar and send them to the dietitian. And then the dietitian's like, oh yeah, you can have all the pasta and cereal and bread and other crap you want, just don't eat sugar. And what does the patient do? They go eat sugar. It's like, why are you even bothering? That's not how you teach somebody. And there's a way to do it. I turn diabetes around for people all the time. That's the easiest thing I do, is take a diabetic and turn it around when they don't need insulin, they don't need diabetes meds. That one's pretty easy. The others are not that difficult. Autoimmune diseases, those are not that difficult. They're a little harder than diabetes for me, but diabetes is an autoimmune disease. Okay, let's go back. I think that kind of what we were talking. Did that answer your question? Kind of, maybe. I don't know. I'm getting tired, and I might not be making much sense right now. Get a little wound up sometimes.
So I was also talking about in terms of, okay, so we're at a certain point, right, where let's say we've gotten to. So my big thing with people is I'll always tell them, start with drinking a gallon of water a day. And then if you can manage to, slip in maybe a 3-day water fast. A lot of people, oh my God, all right. Oh, but what about my body, my minerals? So the salt in the water was a very interesting tip. On the same,
just a little pinch in about the equivalent of a bottle. What's that? 12 ounces. Just a little pinch in about 12 ounces. Yeah.
So that was interesting. My take on it was, okay, you maybe use a lemon but now, what if add a lemon to your water, or maybe enjoy a piece of, watermelon. You might find the right minerals in watermelon, but continue to keep on that water basis and only, then the body's going to probably use the pulp. And then there's calorie intake, and then it's going to start using that to, and so you're going to kind of miss the part where like your body starts to eat away at the bad cells. But, maybe it'll help you bridge. There's something there. And so that's kind of, but I always say start with the water, right? And so quick question, water out of the faucet, water out of the tap, spring water, bottled water. What's the best quality of water that you can get in your body without microplastics, right? Chemicals. And then our bodies are at a certain point where we might not be able to get to all of, let's say, the infected metals, metals that might come from injections, MRIs, microplastics, right? So what are some of the things that we can do that could help our body heal along, where we can bring it back to that baseline of naturalism, so to speak, where maybe we could remove some of the toxins from our body, right? Or avoid eating them. We did mention about the farmer's market, or, farm fresh, right? From buying vegetables and fruits from a place where you trust. Right. So I'm thinking in terms of all of those things. Maybe the best form. What's the best option of when it comes to water? RO water. I know RO water strips water of all the minerals. We look to get minerals from water. Do we use water, and do we add mineral packets to the water to restore the minerals? I know you're big on minerals. And taking minerals, Carol. So maybe you could speak upon some of those. I know that was a lot, but maybe you could touch on some of those thoughts in terms of getting the body in the right direction, and getting it off of the wrong direction, so to speak.
Was there a question in there?
Yeah, I guess maybe I was throwing you the
That was a lot of
softball.
I was like, whoa, where are we going?
Maybe I was throwing you a softball in terms of zeolite, in terms of what's the best way to handle the correct water consumption. Is it something? Would you drink straight from the tap, or would you filter? And then I think there's something. Oh, mineral intake, to make sure that you get the right minerals in you. So I was maybe those were the three things that I was looking at that I know you'd be able to answer really good.
So step number one, stop. Just stop. Stop anything toxic from coming into your house. Don't put it in, on, or around your body. That includes candles. Okay? I mean, there's a lot, guys. Your air fresheners. Why are we spraying that Febreze stuff? That stuff is so poisonous. I mean, you got to stop with the toxins. And I did on my space.
What about the air fresheners that you plug into the wall?
Yeah, Glade plugins are the worst. So I did a space on X. If you go to my X account, it's going to be under the highlights tab. I did one on like household cleaning products and laundry products and that kind of thing. And then yesterday, I did one on the toxins that we put on our bodies, our soaps, our shampoos, our deodorants, that kind of stuff, our grooming and hygiene products. And it's a lot to take in. And then there's a string, a big long thread of tweets with why we need to change all of the toxins, all the bad stuff, why they're bad, and then a whole bunch of alternatives. Get this kind of thing. Look for these types of things. Here's a list of, I think if I had about 40 different companies that have nice, clean products for you to use. You don't need to use this stuff that's advertised on. Let me tell you, if it's advertised on TV, it's probably toxic. Just so you know. And they'll say all natural ingredients. That don't mean nothing. Poison ivy is all natural. Okay, that don't mean nothing. You really have to be very careful with the way that they advertise things. They're very sneaky, and they're allowed to get away with it. There is no oversight on cosmetics. They're not looking at what they're putting in the cosmetics. There is lead in lipstick, in your commercial lipsticks. You got to be really careful, guys. I'm serious. So in terms of what can you do about it? So number one is stop. Number two is get a guide. You're going to need someone to kind of help guide you through this. Now, Marc has been going into my spaces a lot, and he's picking up this information a little bit every week. If that's how you want to do it, that's great. There's lots of YouTube influencers. There's books. There's many books out there that can help guide you. There are people like me. I can guide you in 3 hours. Give me 3 hours, we'll have you on the right track, on a one-on-one conversation, okay? So, but find something to help you. I can't do that right now. There's too much to it. I will say that in terms of water, yeah, you're not going to drink your tap water, especially municipal tap water. I'm on a rural well. I'm out in the country. I'm on a well. My water, I have it tested, and my water is really good to go. But I still filter it. So if you can get a good filtration system, Berkey water filter to set on your cabinet, or a whole house water filter, even the water, if you live in the city, water coming out of the shower that's pouring on your body, full of chemicals, go out and water test it. There's medications in your water. People's old Benadryl and birth control pills and antidepressants. Those three are the most commonly found medications in municipal water systems. I mean, all kinds of stuff in that water. You don't even know what you're drinking. So no, you don't. You even want it on your body. Your skin is like a sponge. It does absorb things, just FYI. So you might want to think about this. And you can even get like a shower head. You unscrew it, and there's a little charcoal filter. You just replace your filter now and then, put it back on your shower. It's better than nothing if you can't do a whole house filtration system. And I know that's the reverse osmosis. Yeah, I know it takes out your minerals. Maybe you can find a charcoal filtration system or a salt filtration system. I don't know. I mean, there's no one answer, one size fits all answer. The whole water issue is a huge another topic all by itself, and I'm still looking for an expert. But as far as drinking water goes, even if you do a reverse osmosis, if you can do structured water, if you could structure your water, and it's by creating a vortex, and there's YouTube videos on how to do structured water. Look it up and see for yourself. But that stuff's really very good for you, by the way. You've got to put it's got to be clean. It's got to be filtered. So you can try that. As far as your food source, get as close to your food source as you can. Get to know your farmer. Go to the farmer's market and meet them. Ask them if you can come out someday and see their farm. Most farmers are like, yeah, sure, come on out. The same thing with the people that are growing the eggs that you buy, or the chickens or the beef or whatever. A lot of times you find them at farmers market. Ask if you can go and see their animals and see how they do things. And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, sure, we'd love to have you. So, sometimes you'll find some they're like, no, liability, I don't want you around the cows, that kind of thing, because they're worried about getting sued for somebody gets injured. But if you can go out and visit these farms and ranches, by all means do. There are actually websites and apps and different ways that you can look these things up and find not just the one that's at your farmer's market, but others in the area. And you can divide and conquer. Send a friend to go look at the rancher, and you go look at the chicken guy, and send another friend to go look at the food grower if you don't want to go all over the place. But at least go to your farmer's market and meet them. But get as close to your food as you can. If you can't grow it yourself, find out who is growing it and get to know them. Yeah, I know you're not going to get mangoes in New York. Okay, nobody's growing mangoes in New York. I get it. You might not get mangoes. You might have to import them, but at least try to get an organic mango. Okay, and try not to eat too many mangoes. Lots of sugar, lots and lots of sugar in mangoes. So, but yeah, just remember that food grows. It's either a plant or an animal. It is not something that is in a box. It has to be rehydrated and stuff. And chemicals, anything chemical that's manufactured in a lab, it's probably coming from a petroleum byproduct. And I want to leave, kind of end this with one last thought. You do not have a pharmaceutical deficiency. Nobody has a pharmaceutical deficiency. You have a deficiency of nutrients that either comes from a plant, an animal, or both. That's what you're deficient in, plants and animals. You're not deficient in pharmaceutical products.
So, really quick, because we're coming up 10:44. It's coming close to an end. Yeah, it's about an hour and 45 minutes. I think we got. I don't know if I got to check these comments here to see if we get any more questions. But really quick, maybe you can really just touch briefly on the benefit of maybe implementing minerals into your diet. I know you're big on that. And then maybe talk a little bit about, I don't know why, but I'm so stuck on zeolite. Maybe you could touch on that, how that can possibly help get the process rolling when it comes to cleaning up, the toxins in your body,
Okay, so minerals, if you remove every single molecule of moisture out of your body, all that's left is a pile of minerals. You are minerals with water in it. You need minerals to function, to repair, to grow, to replace dead cells that leave. And, it's just like, how are you going to ever survive without the minerals? You've got to have them because that's what you are. Just like you cannot survive without water. You cannot survive without minerals. That's all there is to it. So when we look at things like proteins and amino acids and stuff, once you break it down, they're made of minerals. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And yes, you can do mineral replacements. You've heard of magnesium and potassium and selenium and iron and zinc and all of those things. Those are all minerals. Copper. But you've got to know how to balance them. And I do not recommend you go get a bottle of magnesium and a bottle of potassium and a bottle of selenium and a bottle of zinc and a bottle of, no, I don't recommend that at all. Okay. You just, there's much better ways of doing that. I would say, number one, before you do any supplement, you really need somebody that can guide you through. It's not a good idea just to start grabbing supplements, and remember, when you buy a bottle of supplements, you got to buy another one in a month if you're taking it. How many bottles of supplements you want to buy every month? And a lot of times you don't even need most of them. You'll think you do. It sounds like you do. Oh, that supplement's good for this, this, and this. I could use that. Not until your diet is fixed. But you'll find out that when your diet is fixed, you go, yeah, I guess I really didn't need that supplement after all. Now, did I? So, and you asked about zeolite. So zeolite is made from volcanic ash, and or it's basically volcanic rock, and they pulverize it and make it into like a powdered form. But it what it does is it is part of a detoxification program, okay, and it mostly collects up the heavy metals. So if you've got silver fillings in your mouth, those mercury fillings, they call them amalgam fillings, that mercury is off-gassing, and look how close it is to your brain. Your brain loves to soak up mercury. It also loves to soak up aluminum. And your armpit is not far from your brain, but there's aluminum in your antiperspirant. So there's aluminum in the foil that you're covering your food with, and a lot of the utensils you're using to cook in. That stuff releases aluminum when it's heated. If you're using these aluminum pots and pans, you're drinking out of aluminum cans. It's just aluminum is really pervasive. And this is not, our bodies do need a measure of aluminum, but that's not the same aluminum that they're using to manufacture all this stuff with. That stuff is toxic for us. Our bodies cannot tolerate it, and they don't tolerate it. A lot of aluminum collects up in the brain. You're not going to find someone with Alzheimer's that does, if they do the autopsy, that they don't find a large amounts of aluminum collected in the brain. Does that mean aluminum caused the Alzheimer's? That is one factor. It's multifactorial. That, someone with a lot of aluminum in the brain and these particular nutrient deficiencies and these particular, excesses and sugars and all this stuff, now we've got a condition right for Alzheimer's. Only 4% of Alzheimer's disease is hereditary, so stop it. Well, nobody in my family has Alzheimer's. Only 4% is hereditary. 96% is environmental, okay? So, don't think you're going to get away with anything just because you're not related to anybody with Alzheimer's disease. That's not how it works. And there's a lot of kinds of dementias too. Don't worry. If you don't get Alzheimer's, there's lots of kinds of dementias just sitting out there waiting on you. And it's happening at earlier and earlier ages. We're seeing a lot more people in their 30s and 40s being diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia right now. So, it's not good news. But the good news is you get to control everything you purchase, everything you bring into your house, everything you eat. If you're putting it in your mouth, you're in control of it. That's the good news. You get to control all of this. Get a guide to help you with the parts that are confusing for you, to help you figure out which supplements you might need and not need, to help you figure out if you don't know what kind of water filter to put on your house, get a plumber, call somebody that knows something about water systems in homes. Get with an expert on everything. If you want to grow your own food and you don't know how, get a video, get a book, talk to a farmer, get with the experts to make these changes. This is not easy to make all these changes when you're overwhelmed and you're inundated. I know, because I did it. I did it in 2003. I made all the changes at once. And no, it wasn't easy. There was no internet to help me. There was no YouTube in 2003. Amazon was only selling books back then. That's for a frame of reference, okay? And I had to figure all this stuff out with no guide. Well, I did have a nutritionist help me with the food thing, but everything else I had to figure out on my own. So get a guide. If you want to clean up your life, get someone to teach you how to clean. Once you learn how to clean, you got it. After that, I'm serious. After that, it becomes a new lifestyle, and you can do it, and it's just part of what you do, like making your bed or getting a shower or starting your car. At first you didn't know how to make your bed, right? And somebody had to teach you how to take a shower. Somebody had to teach you how to drive that car. Once you got the hang of it, it's no big deal. And that's how this is too. I know it's a big change at first, but you can do it. Just get a guide to help you.
Microplastics, real quick, right? I mean, real quick, right? But like, water bottles, right? We all drink out of water bottles. People buy 24 case water bottles. Is it safe to say that microplastics might be in these bottles of water?
Yeah, they'll tell you, oh no, that water bottle's fine. It's BPA free. Well, I'm glad there's no BPA in there. I'm happy about that. But what we have these teeny tiny little nanoparticles of plastic that are loosening up and getting into the water. And it's not just water bottles. And especially if that water bottle gets heated up and you don't know where it's been. How long did it sit in some hot warehouse or out in the sun before they loaded it off the loading dock? You don't know where that water bottle's been. So, and it's not just water bottles. It's Ziploc baggies. It's I don't know, every piece of plastic in your life. It's the synthetic fibers on your clothing. Synthetic clothing. Those fibers have these little microplastics in there. It's the containers in your shampoo and your toothpaste and every time you touch a piece of plastic, look at that and going, is the thing that this is containing, is that going to somehow get in my body? Is it going to mess up my skin? Like, what's going on here? It's in everything. And plastic is lovely. It's wonderful. It's so handy and convenient and plentiful and cheap. Yeah, move to glass as much as you can. Get rid of your plastic, whatever, Rubbermaid storage stuff for your refrigerator and move to glass. I know it's a one-time purchase. It lasts a lot longer. Those other things, they get warped and messed up and cloudy. And when they get junky, you throw them away anyway. Get a good quality glass set and use that instead. Use glass. Don't use plastic. Glass water bottles. I know it's more expensive, but I don't know. You guys might not care about the microplastics, and that's okay. Microplastics, basically, when they get in your body, they tend to accumulate in the testicles, the ovaries, and the brain. And if you're okay with that, I'm okay with it too. But not for me. I'm not going to do it. But hey, every man to himself. And that's the other thing. Look, I'm a big proponent of health freedom. So everybody has to have the freedom to make their own decisions. Take the information and do what you think is best for you and your family, okay? And your pets. This affects pets too. So, kind of figure out what's your priorities. You might not be able to do it all at once, but what can you start with? And start there. I started with everything at once because I was fighting for my life. Basically, don't get to the point where you have to fight for your life. But at 43 years old, it was do or die. And literally, I'm not exaggerating. I was going to die. That's what the doctors told me. You are going to die. And I decided I was worth fighting for. And I was worth the expense. I was worth the effort. I'm worth it. I am worth the extra to get good food. I'm worth it. Are you worth it? Be worth it. Be worth it.
Carol, I know Big Money. He was. I don't know if he might be passed out at this point because but he's hung in here pretty strong. But I know his sleep schedule because he's a fireman, so I know how exhausted he gets. But I know he started Zeofit. Zeolite. I know he started Zeolite about, I want to say maybe 2 months ago, 3 months, and he swears by it now. He has your whole schedule. He knows he takes 1 week off and then he comes back. He says that he has felt the changes. Josh has said also drink Topo Chico, but I don't know.
Topo Chico, it's in glass bottles. It's a mineral water.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Carbonated. It's fun, little carbonated mineral water. Yeah, Topo Chico.
Okay, so you guys know what Topo Chico is. But he was also, and last question, I guess, of the night is he was also curious about the candles. You mentioned the toxicity in candles. What causes that toxicity in those candles?
You're burning chemicals in your house. That's what's causing the toxicity. You're taking petrochemicals, petro as in petroleum. You're taking chemicals that were manufactured from petroleum byproducts, and you are burning that in your house. And they're putting these artificial fragrances and stuff in there. That's not a good idea. You need beeswax candles. You scented it with essential oils. Yeah. And you can make your own. It's not hard to do. It's super easy. And it's not expensive at all. It's so easy. It's so inexpensive. You're going to save tons of money off those Yankee candles and that other stuff.
That's right. The Yankee candles are. Oh man, I used to love Bed Bath and Beyond, and they go into the Yankee candle store. They used to have a flavor for everything. My mother always used to give me her Yankee candles, and she'd be like, "Here, you take these. You just take them all." And I'd be like, "She's like, I bought them at Costco. I light them in the house. They irritate my eyes, my
Yes.
nose."
Yes.
Yeah, and
Exactly. They irritate your lungs, the inside, the internal membranes, the lining of your lungs are irritants. This is respiratory irritants, mucous membrane irritants, your eyes, your nose, your yeah. No, these candles are toxic. I'm telling you, they're just toxic. Just no, don't just get them out. Don't wait. You
so
can take
just
the wax and save the little glass thing, and then get you some beeswax and melt it. Get you a wick, super cheap. It's super cheap and easy. Look online. There's instructions on how to make your own candles. Don't use soy. Use
oh,
beeswax.
well, interesting. Josh said that he took a quick look and he mentioned that yeah, he said soy candles are not toxic. Is that
They
correct?
are. Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah, you want beeswax. I know that for a long time we thought that the soy waxes were not toxic, and that's not true. So just stick with your beeswax.
Okay. Um, okay. Uh, all right. So Carol, you run, in my opinion, one of the best spaces on Twitter, right? When in terms of health, or X, I should say, and Holy Health, Holy Health. You always have a new guest each and every week. Well, I'm pretty sure you go for a guest each and every week. Maybe you could, I know, best place to reach out to you, best place to find you, and maybe you could talk about Holy Health a little bit and where they could listen and hear you each week. Yeah.
So it's spelled WHOLLY, like whole foods, the whole person, holy health. Okay, and you can find me at Kiss My Carol, or you can just look up ApotheCarol. I promise you, I'm the only ApotheCarol, but at Kiss My Carol on X, and we've got some really fun stuff coming up. I've got a guy coming in there to talk about foot health. Basically, a lot of people have like that plantar fasciitis, so their feet hurt, they got bunions, they got corns, all this stuff. How to avoid that stuff. So foot health is coming up. I have Dr. Robert Lufkin. He just published a book. It just came out about a month ago and he's a medical doctor. He's a professor of medicine, so he teaches in medical schools at USC and UCLA. And the name of his book is Lies I Taught in Medical School. There's another doctor that's written a book that says Lies My Doctor Told Me. There's a lot of doctors writing books right now about how wrong we have been in the medical profession. I've watched all this play out. 1981 is when I graduated with my bachelor's in nursing, and I've watched all of this stuff play out. And yeah, we had it all wrong back then. We know so much more now, but it takes a long time for the medical profession to turn around, and it can only turn around as far as the pharmaceutical industry will allow it. So just so you know, the pharmaceutical industry controls your insurance companies, controls the American Medical Association, the FDA, the CDC, all of the medical schools. They're all being controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. People need to wrap their minds around that and realize what we're up against here. Yeah.
Okay, Carol. Let me check the time here. Let me check. Oh, 11:01. Look at that. 2 hours. Great show. Right on the money. Hang on. Let me go one more comment here. Stacy. Stacy. Okay. Stacy had posted in the comments a link, which might be for Josh. So it seems like people are sharing knowledge right now underneath your watch. All right. So, Carol, we're at 2 hours. The only thing left is, closing out song. And I'm going to close out and do my outro. But people know where to find you. Usually, I know you're most active on X, and you drop that information. I suggest that people. Well, I'll do this on the outro, but yeah. Okay. Any last words for everyone before you say goodnight?
Take control of your health, or those that profit from your illness will.
Okay, Carol. Well,
And thank you for having me, Mark. It's been fun. Kind of this little last minute impromptu thing that we put together, but thank you for having me again. I hope something that I've shared has helped somebody.
I think that we're gonna have a good chance to share the show in a different way, which is what I'm looking forward to. Grabbing what we said we're gonna do, and maybe grabbing some clips from the show and seeing how some maybe 10-15 minute video clips work out there, rather than shipping out a 2-hour show. And then they'll also be able to find this show lots of different places: YouTube, X, Facebook. So hopefully people will take the time. Carol, one thing that I've learned, your health journey is on you, right? And no matter how much we sit here and talk about it, how much information we put out there, how much time we take to share with people, unless they're ready to hear it, it falls on deaf ears a lot of times, But for the most part, the information is out there. But one of the hardest things to talk about with people, because a lot of people, I always say, protect their plate. I find that people go into protect their plate mode, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear shit. They protect their, and now maybe I'll go as far as saying protecting their habits, right? Because people, human beings, habitual creatures, right? They don't like change. They don't like to believe a lot of hocus pocus, and they find reasons why not to. But I mean, there's just so much information, and what a few changes can do to your life. So, yeah, we do have your closing song. What's your closing song, Carol?
My closing song that I chose is Joan Osborne, because she just has a phenomenal voice. She's a great singer. And the name of the song is I Don't Need No Doctor.
I don't need no doctor.
That's right.
Okay, Carol, we're closing out. Say goodnight to everybody. I thank you so much for jumping on the show. It might have been a little last minute thing, but I think that had I known about Memorial Day, or had I remembered that you opened the summer on, I might have taken a look at you. I might have said, she opened the summer. Why not close the summer with her, right? And so this show might have just always been in the works and should have been meant to happen.
Meant to be.
Yeah. Right. So hopefully everybody will join your space. I know Big Money checks out your space a little bit later in the week. I always bug Josh and tell him to jump in the space. I'd actually love for him to have a conversation with you. He's such a great source of information, and then technology-wise too. He's right up there when it comes to ideas and troubleshooting. And I'd love for you guys to connect at some point in time as well. He's great when it comes to sources of information. I'm getting messages, and so I'd love for you guys to swap information as well. He's just, I mean, there's just I like the energy of people coming together and right. They say metal sharpens metal, right? So it's like I always, I try to surround myself with really good pieces of metal, and not inside but outside of the body. So okay, I'm gonna close up now, Carol. I appreciate you coming on, taking your time, sharing your time, and all the support and so forth and so on. And great show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, Carol. You are. What I tell everybody at the end of the show, you are good to go. You're free to, enjoy the rest of your night, and thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Carol.
I'm gonna sit and listen to the music. Can I hear it?
Absolutely, yeah. You don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, I was sitting here and listening to it.
Okay.
You know, you're black on this on X. Your
Oh,
side of the
interesting.
screen is black.
Thank you for that. Sometimes when the show hits 2 hours, I should really have a plug for the camera, but I go off battery power. And whenever we get to that 2 hour moment, I lose video. So I just got to switch the battery, but I should be all right. We should be back. Thank you, Stacy. Stacy also said, awesome show, ApotheCarol.
And I'm still visible, FYI, on X.
I think I'm back. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm back. All right, Carol. Taking off. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next one. You'll come back, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
The next holiday, right?
Yeah, yeah, maybe we'll bring you on for maybe I don't know if everybody wants to hear everything that they don't go near the paper, cause I was gonna say Christmas, but yeah, no, I expect you. I feel like you should be on every so often just because of the wealth of information that is circling through your spaces and the guests that you're having. And so, yeah, especially when it comes to health, I love it when I'm not the one speaking it and someone else is speaking it, because I feel like I've beat this to such I beat health to, it's like beating a dead horse. I always speak about this and how important it is for everyone to pay attention to their health. So I like when other people are, jumping in and it's not me. Because I feel there is a revolution going on. You're seeing it. You're hearing RFK speak about it left and right about, what is it? Maha, Make America Healthy Again. So you're really seeing a big push for this now, just across the internet. Just people are really speaking about it. And I think it's a great thing. So, you're part of that fight. And I've lived it. I've seen the damage it did to my body, and I'm still healing, in the process of healing and learning. I think everybody should be here. But yeah, till next time, Carol. Yeah.
Okay, bye for real this time.
Okay, but moving to me. Yeah, all right. Let me go on to the outro here. Okay, here we go. All right, guys. So that was ApotheCarol back for her third time on the show. We never really got a chance to speak about food. And so I thought this was a pretty important topic because usually I'm the one on the show talking about this and going over all my findings and experiences. And although I might not have the details or the science or the intricacies behind it, however, I do know the differences when I started swapping and switching and changing my diet and really paying attention to all the little intricacies and the things that I was putting in my body. Not to the level of the extent that Carol has the science of this down, but more to just getting myself back in shape. And then I feel like Carol took everything that I've learned and just a complete new level of information. And it's nice to see, even at times when friends and then people on the show, people like Big Money and Josh, where we sit and we change information back and forth, and then to see it pop up in different spaces. And it's just not us. It's happening everywhere, this information. And that makes me feel good because I feel like we've really, as human beings, gotten off track. And I think the more damage that we do to our body, the more it affects the way we act and behave and think. And I will say this, a donut is delicious. It really is. That box of donuts that I eat is delicious, but nothing feels better than when you're looking in the mirror and you have your health on point and you feel great about yourself and you make the necessary changes and you bring your body back to that point where it's way healthier than you ever expected, and there's no feeling like that. And when you feel when you feel 110%, there's just nothing that feels better. I mean, you just feel great. The way you handle situations, completely different. The way you think about things, completely different. Patience. You're not so quick to snap at people. You can. It's just you're in a zen. You're in a zen place where I feel your confidence rises. Just everything changes about the way you behave, and you don't realize how much damage you do and the way it affects your behavior. The acidity levels in your body, especially when your body goes acidic, how you start to tend to think negatively about things, and you wouldn't even know that any of this shit is taking place because nobody's going to tell you. We're going to tell you, but I don't think mainstream will tell you. So that's why I think ApotheCarol is so important and so crucial to the Hour of Power. She's an artist in her own way, maybe an artist in healing the body. So every night I try to have. Every show I try to have someone different on. You never know. Normally it's artists. But it's like we had Josh last week and he spoke about finances. And ApotheCarol came on and spoke about health. I always tend to bring on people to the Hour of Power that I feel have something really important to add to the well-being of a human being when it comes to taking care of yourself. So on that note, I appreciate all you guys tuning in and spending time. It was a long show, lots of information, but important information. This week, Wednesday, right? I'll see you guys on Wednesday. We have Pantia, who will be doing a painting a show where she will be showing all you guys tips and tricks on how to paint. And then Friday, we'll see if we have a guest. I'm working on that person right now. And then, we'll get back to the artists. We'll mix it up a little. I always look for very interesting people to carry the Hour of Power. And so I appreciate every minute that they spend here and share their information and their knowledge. Guys, till next, I'll see you guys on Wednesday, but till Friday on the Hour of Power. And let's say good night. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in, taking the time, sharing, dropping questions and being a part of the show and sharing knowledge. So on that note, let's bring up Carol's song and say goodnight to everybody. Let's see. Let's bring this up. Lost her. There we go. And all right, let's go. All right, y'all. On that note, I want to wish you guys a great week. Stay up, stay positive. Take, and I'll see all you guys next week. Until then, here we go. Good night, y'all. Carol, awesome show. Thank you very much. Guys, have a great night. See you guys next show. Good night, guys. See you guys on Wednesday.